All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most practical guides to living ever written, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Now, I know what you might be thinking philosophy, right? Dusty old books. But seriously, forget all that. Think of this as a 2,300-year-old, totally field tested manual for actually building a meaningful life. So, you ready? Let's get into it. Okay, so let's just start with the biggest question of all, one I bet every single one of us has asked ourselves at some point. What does it actually mean to live a good life? I mean, really, is it about making a ton of money, getting famous, just having fun all the time? Well, it turns out this exact question is what kept one of the greatest thinkers in history up at night. And this right here really gets to the core of it. Look at the stuff on the left, fleeting pleasure. This is what we're so often chasing, right? The quick hits of happiness, the things we get from the outside, the mindless scrolling. And Aristotle saw this. He had a name for it, the life of gratification. And get this, he said it was a life fit more for, quote, beasts than for men. Ouch. Because what he argued, what he was convinced of, is that what we're really looking for is the stuff on the right, that deep, lasting fulfillment that comes from within, something you have to actively build. So that's where this guy, Aristotle, comes in. Over 2,000 years ago, he decided to create a roadmap to answer this exact question. And what's really cool is he wrote it for his son, Nicomachus. So this wasn't just some abstract academic exercise, it was personal. He wanted to figure out step by step what the ultimate goal of everything we do is, and most importantly, how we can actually practically get there. Okay, so that ultimate goal, it has a name, a really important Greek word, eudaimonia. Now, you'll often see this translated as just happiness, but honestly, that doesn't quite cut it. It's kind of misleading. Because for Aristotle, happiness isn't just a feeling you get, like a good mood that comes and goes. No. For him, it's an activity. It's the act of human flourishing. It's about living your life and being the best possible version of yourself you can be. So, to put it simply, for Aristotle, this eudaimonia, this real happiness, is the whole point of everything we do. It's the final destination, and as you can see here, it comes from doing things in accordance with right reason, basically living logically and thoughtfully. And that right there is the essence of virtue. So the big takeaway is this: happiness isn't something that just falls into your lap. It's the outcome of an active life, one you live rationally and with virtue. It's like the prize you earn for a life well lived. Okay, so that leads us to the next logical question, right? If this whole eudaimonia thing is about living virtuously, then what in the world is a virtue? How do you get one? Is it something you're just born with? You're either a good person or you're not? Well, Aristotle's answer to that is a very, very firm no. Instead of saying you're just born with it, he gives us a toolkit, a practical set of tools for building our own character. And the most famous tool in that whole kit is this idea called the golden mean. The basic concept is actually super simple. Being a good person, being virtuous, is all about finding the perfect balance. So what is this golden mean? Well, think of it like a sweet spot right in the middle of two bad extremes. On one side, you have the vice of too much, that's excess. On the other side, you have the vice of too little, that's deficiency. And virtue, the good stuff, isn't some strict rule. It's the skill of finding that perfect balance in any given situation. It's not about being boring or mediocre. It's about hitting a bullseye right between two bad choices. And these examples make it so much clearer. Let's really look at this. Take the first row, how we handle money. If you have too little generosity, you're stingy, right? That's avarice. If you have way too much, you're just throwing your money away. That's prodigality. The virtue, the golden mean, is liberality, being generous but in a smart, appropriate way. Or how about the second one, how you talk about yourself? Too little, that's understatement, you're always putting yourself down. Too much, you're a boaster, constantly bragging. The sweet spot, just being truthful. Simple as that. And my favorite one is the last one, anger. Not getting angry when you really should, that's a defect, apathy. But flying off the handle at every little thing, that's an excess, irascibility. The virtue patience is about getting angry at the right things, for the right reasons, in the right way. You can see how this is a real skill, not just a simple rule. And Aristotle himself sums this up perfectly here. He says, the virtue of a man will be the habit which makes a man good, and by which he performs his own function well and perfectly. So what does that mean, perform his own function? Well, think about it like this. What's the function of an eye? To see. So a virtuous eye is one that has clear vision. Aristotle argues that the unique function of a human being is to live a life guided by reason. So our virtue is the habit of living that life really, really well. So a virtue is a habit. That's the key. But if it's a skill, we need to find that golden mean. How on earth do we actually develop it? This leads us to Aristotle's actual method, and it's both really deep and surprisingly simple. We become good people by doing good things over and over and over again. This is probably the most important point of all. You cannot think your way into having a good character. You can't just read a book about courage and suddenly become courageous. You can't just think about being generous and then magically be a generous person. Aristotle is so clear about this. You become a just person by actually doing just things. Your character is built in the real world through your actions, not just by thinking about it in your head. And he even gives us a little 4-step process for how this works. Check it out. Step 1. It all starts with a single action. You do one courageous thing. Step 2. Repetition. You do it again and again. Step 3. That action, through repetition, becomes a habit. It starts to feel like second nature. And then finally, step 4. That habit becomes ingrained in your character. At that point, you don't just do courageous things anymore. You are a courageous person. See the difference? You know, Aristotle had this fantastic analogy for people who just listen to philosophy but don't actually put it into practice. He said they're like a patient who goes to the doctor, listens super carefully to all the advice, and then goes home and does absolutely none of it. That patient is never going to get a healthy body, right? Well, Aristotle argued it's the same thing for our character. A person who only talks about being good will never actually build a good and healthy soul. All right, so let's bring all of this into the here and now. I mean, why should we care about what some Greek philosopher wrote over 2,000 years ago? The reason is that this isn't just some historical fact to memorize for a test. It's a real, practical, timeless toolkit for dealing with the messiness of our own modern lives. Think about it. You could apply this stuff to your everyday life. That golden mean between working yourself into total burnout and the other extreme of quiet quitting and doing nothing, finding that balance is an Aristotelian virtue. Or how about building the habit of being patient in traffic instead of just laying on your horn? It feels so small, but Aristotle would say that's exactly where character is built, in those tiny choices. It's about deciding to define your success not by how many likes you get, but by your own sense of growth and purpose, your own personal eudaimonia. Every single one of those small good choices is another brick you're laying down in the foundation of who you are. And that really is the whole message. The big idea from Aristotle is that living a good life isn't about getting lucky. It's not about your circumstances. It's an art. It's a skill. It's something that we build ourselves, one choice, one action at a time, every single day. His book, The Ethics, isn't just something to read and put back on the shelf. It is a guide for how to live. So I'm going to leave you with a question to take with you. The next time you have a decision to make, whether it's big or small, how to answer that annoying email, what to do with your evening, how you're going to react when something doesn't go your way, just stop and ask yourself the Aristotelian question. What would be too much here? What would be too little? And where, right in this moment, can I find my golden mean?